It's time to talk about the important issues for the natural state. And there's only one place to turn for that. Opportunity Arkansas's Nic Horton. You can find Nic's work at opportunityarkansas.org.
And welcome back. It is the Wednesday edition of First News here on the 18th of June, just about 20 minutes in front of 8 o'clock. We've got a lot of ground to cover with Opportunity Arkansas's Nic Horton this morning, of course, CEO and founder of Opportunity Arkansas. And Nic, welcome back to the show. I know you take a lot of pride in being a dad, so did you have a good Father's Day last Sunday?
I did, and it just so happened to be, it was kind of a crazy timing in a lot of ways, but ended up being my daughter's 5th birthday on Father's Day as well. So we had a little bit of a double whammy, and we tried to celebrate her as much as we celebrated Dad.
You bet.
It was a really good day.
No, that's awesome. That is good to hear. So getting into some of the business this morning, Nic, before we get back to some conversation about the 2025 scorecard that Opportunity Arkansas put together, we had a ton of protesting going on around the country under the name No Kings, and I thought you had a great post about this saying you wish the No Kings folks would have organized and protested during COVID when shots were being mandated and businesses were being forced to close. But what do you think of all this protesting against ICE and against President Trump right now? Is it somewhat hypocritical?
It's very hypocritical,
Mm-hmm.
and I do find it interesting. You know, this is not original to me, but it kind of occurred to me, and I've seen a lot of other people making this observation as well, that it's very ironic, if anything, that in countries that have kings, you're not actually allowed to go out and protest having a king. And so the irony, I think, should not be lost on us, that we have a bunch of people who, are obviously being whipped up and astroturfed by left-wing billionaires and the left-wing activist network, as they always are, going out to protest something that is just really silly, frankly, and there's no evidence or no level of seriousness to this in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
We clearly do not have a king. We clearly will not have a king. The real No King's Day will be July 4th, which is one of my favorite holidays, and I really look forward to celebrating that with my family. But yeah, it's just all a bunch of silliness, and it's a cry for attention. It's so interesting when you talk about those protests or the LA riots or any of these big demonstrations that are going on around the country. There's really only one side. There's really only one side of the political spectrum that gets mad and throws a hissy fit and takes their ball and goes home when they don't get their way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not conservatives. It's the left, and it's been that way my entire lifetime at least. And it's just kind of here we go again in a lot of ways. And good for them. Most of us are at work while these folks are out burning cars and raiding Apple stores and doing all the other nonsense that they're doing. But it doesn't really do anything, and I think frankly Americans are kind of frustrated with it. Look, they clearly have a right to demonstrate, a right to protest. Good for them. That's a constitutional right. Go out and picket and do whatever you need to do to make yourself feel better. But it's not actually moving the needle. And frankly, I think the more they do it, just the more and more desperate it seems.
Yeah. Well, and the one thing I will say, at least about the protests that went on here in Little Rock, at least they were peaceful. At least we didn't have the burning of cars and flags, and we didn't have the looting that we see predominantly on the West Coast so far. I know New York has seen some of it on the East Coast, but predominantly on the West Coast, where they just are totally unhinged at this point, at least as far as the protesters are concerned. But Nic, I wanted to also talk about the scorecard 2025 that Opportunity Arkansas put out to somewhat quantify what happened in the last legislative session. I believe that last week you said that there would be a feature posted soon, if you haven't already done it, where we could go to the website, opportunityarkansas.org, and look up our representative or our senator for our area and see what their individual score was for the session. And so I wanted to ask you if that was up and running at the website now.
Oh yeah, it is absolutely. You're not going to see it on the homepage of the website, but if you go to the main menu and look for scorecard, folks right there will be able to click on that, and it'll take them to a really interactive tool that we're really proud of and think is a great service, frankly, to the people of Arkansas, that you can go in and you can search by name, by district, by hometown, and find the legislator that you're looking for. And then you can see if they were here in the 2023 session, you could see their 2023 score and all their votes on the issues that we scored in 2023, and then you could see their new votes on the latest version of the scorecard as well. So that's a great resource that we're excited to be able to offer to the people of Arkansas.
And so when you're looking at that, you can narrow it down as far as like, here's the bill that I want to know how they voted on. You could look at an individual bill and see how they voted on that bill.
That's right. If it's within the 22, so we scored 22 bills. There were 1,652 bills total in the legislative session, which is about 1,600 too many, if you ask me.
You better believe it.
But then we boiled it down to about 139 that we were tracking throughout the session that fall within our pathways to opportunity, our issue areas that we work on: welfare reform, tax reform, education reform, a handful of others. And then we picked, of those 139, we picked the 22 most consequential. And some of those 139 didn't make it out of committee. Some of them never got a vote. So we obviously can't score things that didn't get a vote.
Right.
But we were able to boil it down to the 22, a couple dozen or so, that we felt like were really the most impactful in terms of either expanding opportunity for Arkansans and making it easier for people to work, easier for people to get out of government dependency, easier for parents to choose the education option that's the best for them, or did the opposite of those things and moved us in the wrong direction. And so there's 22 bills of those. There's a bill we talked a lot about, Toby, on your show and elsewhere on KRN, that was going to add some new restrictions, that did add some new restrictions, unfortunately, to the Education Freedom Program. We scored that bill. There were several bills that increased Medicaid spending and Medicaid dependency. We scored a handful of those. And then there were some good bills, frankly. When you look at school board reform, that's one of the things I think we'll look back on this session in a lot of ways, and we'll remember it as the session where we finally fixed our broken school board election system, because we've had in the state of Arkansas, on average, a school board election every 6 months in the state of Arkansas, every 6 months. And some of these elections, you have 10 to 12 to 20 people showing up and voting in these elections, and you're clearly not getting an accurate representation of the voters in those areas when you have 12 people show up. So we've standardized those terms. We've standardized the length of the terms, which was creating a lot of confusions for taxpayers. And so some good things that happen there, and some good things that happen in other areas as well. But that's a kind of a survey of some of the bills that we scored.
Yeah.
And folks can go look that up on the website. Go to opportunityarkansas.org/scorecard is a little bit of a shortcut to get there.
Sure.
And go and see how your legislators voted.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, having the information is, makes you so powerful as a voter. And so make sure that you go and check that out at opportunityarkansas.org. Speaking of the organization, Nick, a lot of people in our audience, they send in text messages. We get phone calls. A lot of people in our audience excited about what Opportunity Arkansas does here in the state. And so I wanted to give you a quick second to promote that Opportunity Arkansas, you're actually hiring right now. And so I wanted to know what type of job you're hiring for, in case the right person is listening this morning, and then how you'd go about applying to work for Opportunity Arkansas.
Gosh, yeah, I appreciate the chance to talk about that. This is a super important role, something that we've been, frankly, needing for a long time. But as you know, Toby, we're still a really new organization. We'll have our 3-year anniversary actually in August, so we're not even fully 3 years old yet. But one of the things we've identified that we just really need to continue to generate the great content and materials and products that we're producing is a communications director. And so that's a position that we're actively seeking to hire. It's going to involve really the whole gambit of things. When you think about communications, it's going to involve some creative design. It's going to involve writing and editing. It's going to involve media relations. They're going to be managing and overseeing our communications team. It's a really, really, really big job. In a lot of ways, I think it's almost 2 jobs, maybe 2.5 jobs in one in terms of the responsibilities. So it's a really, really big job, but it's really, really important to our growth and the success of our organization if we want to continue to make the difference that we're making. As you know, we've had quite a hot streak here in terms of the impact we've been able to make with education freedom, 3 rounds of income tax cuts, a couple dozen or so more policy wins in the recent legislative session, which we're going to be highlighting more coming up. And in order to maintain that pace and even expand, frankly, what we're doing and do more of what we're doing, it's a very vital role that we want to fill and hope to fill as soon as possible. So if folks want to learn more about that, it's posted on our website. But we work with a hiring firm called Talent Market, which is a conservative nonprofit that helps conservative nonprofits like ours fill these types of roles. So folks can go to talentmarket.org, I believe it is, and actually apply there. So yeah, we would love to have as many applications as possible. If there's someone in your audience that's listening that thinks they might be a good fit, we would love to talk to them.
Yeah, I mean, you'll be the carrier and the distributor of the message from Opportunity Arkansas, and that is obviously hugely important as the communications director for the organization. But Nic, always appreciate you stopping by, and of course, now, oh, by the way, if you do want to go over resumes here on the air, we can do that if you would like to. So that's always a lot of fun.
Yeah, let's put a pin in that for next week.
Okay. Whenever I get told let's put a pin in it, that means I had a bad idea. so yeah,
but pencil, not pen. Maybe crayon.
Yeah, I just wanted you to know that opportunity is out there if you want to take that one. So that's always a fun time to public hiring.
And a free plug for our friend Steve Finnegan this afternoon. Myself and Jay Robertson, our public affairs director, are going to be on with him at 5:00 in studio, actually, and talking more in depth about our scorecard, which we talked about a little bit here this morning. So
nice.
If folks want to hear more about the scorecard, we'll be back on the air this afternoon.
All right, looking forward to that. It's just after 5:00 this evening on the Finnegan Show. Nic, always appreciate you jumping on the morning show nice and early with us, and of course we'll hear from you this evening right after 5:00.
Sounds great.